Greetings from my world.
With y'all, man, we back again with another video. Today we got 3 disturbing true hospital horror stories about Mr. Nightmare. Shout out to that nigga. Without further ado, let's jump right into it.
I've worked as a nurse in multiple hospitals and facilities. Before the current hospital I work at, I worked at a geriatric hospital 30 minutes from my house. I had experience working with older patients before, so this was nothing new to me. I had been working at this hospital for only a couple of weeks, and you'll soon understand why. This was on my second to last shift at this hospital, unbeknownst to me at the start of that night. I was working the graveyard shift, and I was running on negative hours of sleep. I was assigned to the Alzheimer's ward. The patients in this ward absolutely adored me. My presence as a young girl in her 20s among the residents of this ward who were otherwise left to themselves to float around in their minds, I'm sure saw me as a breath of fresh air. Someone who could tie them to the now or to the everyday. If you're just left to yourself, you can mentally go to other places, but with someone else in your space,
true.
You're tied to that moment in time. I was dealing with a number of patients that night, but one was a little more restless than the others. Her name was Lena. This was my first night dealing with her, and she kept telling me anytime I'd enter her room about the voices she kept hearing and the man dressed in black she kept seeing in the corner of the room. The other lady in her room requested her curtain be closed before my shift started so that Lena would leave her alone. She was a sweet lady that smiled whenever I was around her, but she didn't say much and was very forgetful. Since I started my shift around 9 p.m., most of the patients were asleep by 11, but not Lena. Whenever she called me into the room.
Bro, fucking hospitals are so creepy, especially at night when it's dark and there's very few lights on. Bro, it is so creepy, man, because anything just pop out. Like, I don't like hospitals. Number one, they're too cold. And number two, it's too creepy. Especially if you go there at night. It's just too creepy, bro. Like, fuck nah.
She'd be frightened of these alleged voices she was hearing, and the man in black that kept staring at her in the corner of the room. Not gonna lie, it was creeping me out a little. I believed that in her mind she was seeing and hearing these things, and I sympathized with her because I imagined them to be very scary. But still, I tried my best to calm her down and get her to go to sleep. I didn't want to turn on the TV to calm her down because I wanted to be courteous of the other patient in the room. I held Lena's hands and told her it's okay, to breathe and to relax. I reminded her that she wasn't here alone, and I was always just a call away. This seemed to do the trick. Lena relaxed for a while, and the next time I came in the room, she was asleep. Once most, if not all, of the patients are asleep, the night goes much slower. Time almost moves in reverse. An hour or two later, I was in the linen room stocking my cart when I heard something in the room. It was a relatively small, dead quiet room. I had the door closed too. That's why hearing another noise was weird. I turned, saw nothing, and resumed stocking my cart. Then, I felt what I can only describe to be a hand on my shoulder. I looked at my shoulder, jumped, and screamed, but there was nothing on my shoulder. There was no one in the room. Yet, I knew I felt something large basically grab my shoulder. I went out in the hall for a second to peek my head. No other nurses in sight. Dead quiet. I had nothing else to do but resume what I was doing. I continued stocking the cart until it was full. Then I turned to face the door, and I fell to the floor and started screaming as my heart was immediately in my throat. There was a man dressed in black standing outside the door, looking through the glass, smiling. My screams were loud enough to wake the entire ward. The man disappeared out of sight through the glass window of the door. Seconds later, the door opened and one of my fellow nurses came in to help me off the floor as I was hysterical. I asked her if she saw the man dressed in black. Her response was, "What man?
Of
There's
course,
no one else
nobody's
here."
seen him.
We checked all the rooms in the ward. There wasn't anybody dressed in black in there. My screams woke Lena from whatever light sleep she must have been in, and when I came into her room, she started talking of the voices. This time
That's what I don't understand about these like horror stories. Like, only certain people see something wrong. Like, nobody else notices anything, see anything. It's like, bro, like, it started to make me feel crazy because it's like, am I the only one? Like, sometimes, like, y'all know how y'all see something and then y'all think it, that y'all think in y'all mind is real, but to other people, it's like, what are you talking about? I ain't seen nothing. And you start to question yourself, like, bro, am I crazy? Did I just see something that wasn't there? But like, nah, I wasn't. Nah, bro, it's weird. Like, it's kind of like, why am I the only one who sees this and nobody else? Especially in these horror stories, dog. That seems to always be the case.
Screams, which she didn't know were my screams. I asked her what this man in black looked like, if he was smiling. And she looked at me, and I noticed her eyebrows point down as her expression changed to look the most focused I'd seen her the entire day. She asked, "How did you know?" And even with my heart still racing, I felt it skip a beat as she said this. She started screaming now, screaming, "Get me out of here, he's coming." The other nurses came in and tried to calm her down. I was switched to a different ward that night with someone else, and I eventually ended up going home early because I was just so freaked out. I texted the head nurse the next day that my next shift would be my last, that the experience traumatized me and that I didn't really want to be in that building anymore. I got as friendly of a response as I could have hoped for. I've never been diagnosed with anything, nor have I ever dealt with hallucinations of any kind. I'm aware of the effects of lack of sleep, but this was next level. I don't know if my mind started playing tricks on me from what Lena was telling me all night.
That was a nice little
The
edit.
feeling of the hand on my shoulder, the image of the smiling man behind the glass door, matching the description a patient kept giving multiple times. This was one of those once-in-a-lifetime, unexplainable supernatural occurrences. At least, I hope it was once in a lifetime.
Yeah, that was weird. That's what was weird.
Before the next story, I want to thank Guardio for sponsoring this video. Stories like the ones you hear on this channel are the reason why you need to be vigilant of your surroundings, but many people spend a majority of their time on the internet, so it's also important to be vigilant regarding your safety browsing the web.
Don't get your
Guardio
ad,
is an
nigga.
easy-to-use
Get your
browser
revenue.
extension that, simply put, keeps you safe from scams and identity theft, so that you can do what you do online without worrying. By using Guardio, you'll protect your online browsing and information, avoid installing malware and falling victim to scams, and you'll get real-time alerts on any device when your information could be at risk. Everybody's encountered dangerous and annoying pop-ups while browsing the web. Guardio will immediately block any sites and providers that send you malvertising pop-ups so you can browse in peace. Being a YouTuber means hours of work online, so I wasn't too surprised when Guardio showed me all the existing threats on my system. Right now, Guardio is offering a special deal for my viewers, 20% off the monthly subscription if you use my link. So if you want a clean and secure browsing experience, go to guard.io/Mr. Nightmare, link in the description, and check out their affordable premium plan for full protection.
Yeah, but that was definitely a weird story though. Like, bruh. Now, lack of sleep can do that to you. It can make you go crazy, see some shit that's not really there. So it's probably one of those hallucination stories. But then again, you never know because life is crazy like that. But I mean, being in the hospital, lack of sleep, fear, yeah, that can do that to you, bro. So probably hallucination, but who knows? That shit was definitely crazy though.
3 years ago, I contracted bacterial meningitis. I live in South Florida. I don't believe there was an outbreak going on or anything, so I'm not sure how I caught it or who I could have caught it from. I started developing really bad symptoms, painful headaches, confusion, sleepiness, nausea, and lack of appetite. But when the hallucinations started, that's when I knew I had something really serious. Laying sick in bed while my husband was at work, I heard a child's voice call Mom from downstairs. Mom! We don't have any kids. I dragged myself out of bed to look down the stairway to call my husband's name. Of course, he didn't answer because he was at work. The headache I had from standing was too much, so I went back to bed. For a second time, I heard a voice call from downstairs. It said hello. Hello. I picked up the phone and called my husband, freaking out to him into the phone that I was hearing a scary child's voice.
Y'all ever watch those scary movies where like somebody would be like in the house alone, dark as hell, and then they hear somebody's voice, like a little girl voice, but they know they're home alone and they know they don't have any kids? That's exactly what this is, bro. It's exactly like those scenes in those horror movies. That is creepy as hell. The fuck? I'll be out. I'll jump out the window. I swear to God, I'll jump out the window. No, bro. Fuck that. You got me
from
fucked
inside the
up.
house, and that I thought I was hallucinating. He heard how distressed I was over the phone, and so he left work early to bring me to the hospital.
You got me fucked up.
While waiting for him to get home, I changed out of my pajamas, and while doing so, I had to run to the bathroom to throw up. As I was mid-throwing up, I heard another voice from outside of the bathroom. I couldn't hear what it might have said, nor could I tell if it sounded the same as the other voice I heard. I was losing my mind. I wasn't diagnosed until I arrived at the hospital, and apparently, if untreated, what I had could be very serious, even fatal. The doctor told me the hallucinations part was rather unusual, but not unheard of. I was given antibiotics through a needle shortly after I arrived at the hospital with my husband. The doctor told me that I was fortunate to have come to the hospital so quickly, as if I had waited much longer, this could have had lasting effects or possibly have been fatal. My husband stayed with me for a few hours in the room. I was told I was going to have to stay there for a few days to a week, given the severity of my symptoms.
A long ass time.
Around 10 o'clock, my husband left to go home, as he had work the next day.
Oh no.
The nurse
you
told me
left
call
there?
her if I should have any
Hell.
issues. Though I still felt like absolute death, I nodded off pretty quickly. I started having this dream where my ex-husband was in the room, over my bed, looking down at me, talking. He was saying horrible things about my current husband. He patted my head and said he was glad I was okay, and that he came as soon as he saw my husband left. He went into this rant about how he despises my current husband and wants to kill him. He kept
Yeah,
rubbing my forehead, then
She
left the
definitely
room.
tweaking.
I often have bad dreams about my ex-husband.
Now this definitely sounds like an hallucination. She tweaking heavily. Yeah, this sounds more like an hallucination than the other one. This sounds more like a hallucination type shit.
Because of how toxic and abusive our marriage was, and why it ended, which I'd rather not include. I woke up in this drowsy, lightheaded state and looked around the room. There was a chair pulled up in front of my hospital bed, but no one was sitting in it. It wasn't like that when my husband left. It was still the middle of the night, so I went back to sleep. I woke up the next morning to the nurse in the room. I told her about the weirdly vivid dream I had, and she laughed and told me that wasn't a dream, that my cousin came to visit me last night.
Yo,
I told her I don't have
what
any
the
cousins that
fuck?
live in this state. She looked more serious now and said, "Well, someone who said they're your cousin David visited you late last night." David was the name of my ex-husband. After explaining better, the nurse got a doctor.
She
The
wasn't
doctor told me
tripping.
the antibiotics may have caused delirium, which hindered my ability to recognize sleep from wakefulness, hence why I was so vividly hearing what David was saying. I called my husband to tell him what happened, and of course he was livid and concerned. He came back again that night after work. But that day, I texted David, asking what the hell he was thinking visiting me, and how did he know I was in the hospital. My text delivered, but he ignored it. I
Damn.
sent a follow-up, telling him I heard all of his threats towards my husband and that I'd be getting police involved. And minutes later, he responded saying, "I never made any threats towards your husband. I was simply there when I heard what happened to make sure you were okay. You must have heard things in your sleep." I responded, "Stay out of my life or I'll get police involved again." He didn't respond after this. I never told my husband about the threats I heard in my drowsy half-asleep state, because I didn't know if they were real or not. With a mix of the antibiotics and my already having weird audible hallucinations the day before, I don't think it's impossible that what I heard wasn't actually what was said. But I could be wrong. I left the hospital the next week.
It's a mixed bag with that one. It's definitely a mixed bag with that one, bro. You can put it any type of way. You can take it any way. It was real, maybe it wasn't real. Maybe it was both real and not real. Who knows? But sounds like another hallucination story. And the nigga came in and he probably was telling the truth, talking to her and shit. But, you know, sometimes your mind can't tell the difference between reality and non-reality. So they kind of just went the same. They look the same. So, hey, that's definitely crazy, bro. Hallucinations are no joke because you really can't tell the difference.
I once matched this girl that I'm still friends with on Tinder, named Francesca. She seemed cool right from the bat. She had a sleeve of tattoos on her left arm, red highlights in her hair, and she had in her profile that she loved to work out. One of her pictures was taken on the rooftop of this cool-looking building with a sick view. I asked her where it was, and she told me it was some abandoned hospital on the edge of town that's super cool to explore at night and
No.
super easy to get into.
No, red
There's usually
flag.
one cop patrolling the huge parking lot at night to deter trespassers. But she said it was super easy to circumvent. She came up with the idea of us going there together as our first date of sorts, if you want to use the word date. I was totally on board with it. She seemed cool, and it seemed like a cool, different kind of way to meet someone as opposed to the usual let's get drinks. I picked her up from her house 10 minutes away. Then we drove the 20 minutes to get to the hospital.
That's not a good idea,
Those
bro.
20 minutes gave us a nice chance to get to know each other a bit and get comfortable with each other's personalities.
Listen, if I'm about to go on a date with a female and she says our dating spot should be an abandoned hospital or an abandoned anything, I'm not going. No, because that's weird. How come we can't go to like a restaurant somewhere in public where there's a lot of people around? Why we gotta go somewhere secluded and abandoned where we're not supposed to be around? It's kind of like you trying to do something to me or set me up or something, bro. Maybe it's just me, but I got paranoid. I'm paranoid when it comes to that shit. No, like why we gotta go somewhere secluded and abandoned? That's kind of weird to me. Nah, I ain't gonna lie. That's a red flag.
When we got to the hospital, she told me to park on this dead-end street hidden by a bunch of tall bushes, which was a 5-minute walk to the inside of the hospital. We hopped this little barrier separating the road from the hospital parking lot.
Look at that shit.
And then
Fuck
we jogged
that.
across the wide open lot
I ain't
towards the
going in
grass
there.
right next to the entrance she said she always used. She led us to this broken window to the basement of the hospital. It seemed kind of creepy, but I signed up for this. I was glad I wore raggy jeans like she told me to, because I knew I was going to rip them on something. We used our phone flashlights. We didn't bring any special heavy-duty lights or anything. She seemed to know this whole hospital like the back of her hand. She led us to the stairway to the upstairs. I gotta say, being alone with one other person in a place like this at night was very scary, but I had no idea how scary it was about to get. On the first floor, Francesca kept talking so loud that I almost wanted to tell her to shh. I was paranoid we'd be found out because of her voice.
Nigga see a ghost or
Down the
something?
corridor we were in, it sounded like a door was opening or closing.
Oh no.
Something
I'm
echoed
out.
down the corridor to us. She heard it too and went silent. I asked her in a whisper, "Is it normal for others to be here?" And she said sometimes, but not really. We turned off our flashlights and waited. Suddenly there was a bang, much closer to us now. We both scrambled in the dark. I followed her, barely able to see. We made it back to the stairway and ran up the stairs with our lights back on. When we were a couple levels higher, we felt it was okay to speak at a normal volume
Man,
again.
hell no, I'm out.
Francesca told me the police never come in here, so it may have been other explorers. But the weird thing was there was no sign of another light in that corridor. Nobody normal would be walking in the dark. Then we heard sounds echoing from the exit stair shaft, where we just were. Someone was coming up the stairs. Once again, we scrambled. She led the way, saying she knew where to go. We ran for a few minutes through this maze of a building. I was truly freaking out.
Man.
It seemed like we were being followed, and I wasn't sure if I would rather have it been the cops or someone else. She led us to this mini outside spot. We weren't on the highest rooftop, but I guess we were on what you'd call the rooftop of this level. We stopped to catch our breath. The whole being followed thing was killing the vibe completely. Even she seemed concerned, and I looked to her as the expert with this place. After a few minutes, we relaxed a bit and went through this broken window into the ceiling of this one large room. This part was scary because she wanted to walk along these long, narrow wooden planks with a 10-foot drop below
bro.
us. A fall from this
Man, look, bro. First of all, you want me to go to this abandoned ass, creepy ass hospital for a date, you say, and then we get caught or somebody is chasing after us. We're running through this fucking maze of a creepy ass hospital. Then you want me to go on top of a roof and walk across these thin ass planks with a 10-foot drop at the bottom that could kill us. No, you got me fucked up. That's too many red flags. Too many. I'm gone. I'm gone the minute somebody else was in here. The fuck? And they ain't announced themselves. They ain't got no flashlight, walking in the dark. I'm gone. I'm out. Fuck this date and fuck you. Shit.
it would cause injury,
The
but
fuck?
I didn't want to seem like a pussy. I
Shit.
followed her across this
I'm a
sketchy
pussy
long
tonight.
wooden board until we got to the top of this pillar where one board stopped and another one started. We sat on this pillar to just chill and talk, with our legs dangling over the edge overlooking the darkness below. It was creepy in there, and I thought we were all alone, until there was a sound from below us. It sounded like someone walking. Our presence was already made known to whoever was in there, so we turned on our flashlights and aimed them down below. And right below us, standing at the pillar, looking up at us, there was this 40-something-year-old man in a black Carhartt beanie, wearing a black jacket and black sweatpants.
The fuck?
He smiled at us and said in this creepy deep voice, "Come on down," as he was waving us to come down.
Nah, nigga.
I asked, "Are you police?" He disregarded my question as if he didn't hear me and repeated, "Come on down," with
Nah.
his creepy smile. Francesca and I got up scared and and started walking back across the narrow piece of wood. I was even more scared of falling now than before. I had no idea what that man would do to us. As we were about halfway across, the man hurried out of the room below us through a door. He was most definitely going to try to catch us. We had to hurry. We made it across and tried to get out of there, knowing that man was dangerous. As we were running down the stairs in a shaft on the opposite side of the hospital, we heard the door a few flights above us open and slam shut, and then footsteps stomping down the steps.
Y'all better
He
run.
somehow had followed us. We were hauling ass as if we were running for our lives. We made it back to the first floor, and we ran back to the opposite side of the hospital where we entered from. We went back to the basement and climbed through the broken window. The whole process of climbing through that window was haunting, because I went out second, and I was afraid my legs would be grabbed at any moment. But I think by that point we lost the man.
Man, fuck all.
We
fuck
ran
all
back
that.
across the parking lot back to my car, and when we made it, first thing we did was lock the doors and catch our breath again. That was a complete nightmare, and somehow, us getting through it together created a sort of instant bond between us.
No, the fuck
We
it
drove
didn't.
away from there and stopped at a Wendy's to get food and just collect our thoughts in the car.
This nigga's
We
crazy.
chilled for an hour just talking, and then I dropped her off. Francesca and I have stayed in contact through the years, and while we were romantically involved for a few months, we ended up just staying good friends. Neither of us ever returned to that hospital again.
Man, hell nah. I wouldn't know. I'm finna block you from my phone. You almost got me killed on the first date, and then you want to take me to this creepy ass abandoned hospital where we almost got chased down and possibly killed. Hell nah. I'm not your friend. I'm not your boyfriend. I'm not none of that. I'm finna block you from my phone. Fuck you, bitch. The fuck? Nah, this last story was the craziest and the realest story. The last two were like hallucination types, but this one right here was crazy as hell. Story 3 was crazy as hell, bro. Hell nah. I mean, that made me not want to use Tinder no more. Hell nah. Man, that was too many red flags. That dude should have known something was up. He should have known something was not gonna go right that night. Nah, bro. Y'all gotta pay attention. Y'all gotta watch out, bro. But this gonna be in this video. Like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you boys in the next one. Peace.